Emberfall, a sci-fi story. Part 1. The lava takes the ship. The landing craft was already sinking when the world came back into focus. Heat hammered against Dr. Kim Xing's visor, a suffocating wall of red-white glare. Her ears rang. Her suit's alarms screamed in overlapping tones. Oxygen countdown, thermal overload, hull breach proximity. She tried to move, but the deck beneath her boots tilted sharply, groaning like a dying animal. A voice cut through the chaos. "Kim, out now!" Hands grabbed her shoulders. Lieutenant Jace Rourke hauled her upright just as the floor buckled. The landing craft's hull, already half-melted, gave way with a sound like tearing metal submerged in boiling water. A wave of molten rock surged up around the craft's belly, swallowing it inch by inch. Kim stumbled forward, boots slipping on the trembling ramp. The air shimmered with heat distortion. Lava geysers erupted in the distance like artillery fire. The sky above was a choking haze of ash and emberfall, glowing particles drifting like snow, each one hot enough to burn through exposed skin. "Move!" Jace shouted again. Behind him, Kira Solano, geologist, volcanologist, and the only one who had wanted to land on this hellscape, was dragging 2 emergency packs toward the collapsing ramp. Her suit's plating was already scorched black. The landing craft lurched. The ramp dipped. The molten rock surged higher. Kim's boots hit solid basalt just as the craft's rear thrusters exploded in a plume of white-hot gas. The blast knocked all 3 of them forward. Kim hit the ground hard, her visor cracking with a spiderweb fracture. The landing craft sank fully into the lava with a final metallic scream. Then it was gone. Only a bubbling crater of molten rock remained. Only the 3 of them remained, and their oxygen timers were already ticking down. The clock starts. "Status," Jace said, voice clipped, controlled. He was the kind of man who could watch a building collapse and still ask for a structural analysis before running. Kim blinked through the crack in her visor. Suit integrity at 82%. Oxygen 3 hours, 42 minutes. 3 hours, 51, Kira said. "And I grabbed 2 emergency packs before the ship went under. They've got water, thermal gel, and maybe a few extra filters." Jace checked his own display. 3 hours, 49. "Good. We're alive. That's the baseline." Alive was generous. The ground beneath them trembled constantly, like the planet itself was breathing. Rivers of lava cut through the landscape in glowing veins. Basalt bridges arched over them, some intact, some collapsing into fiery chasms. Volcanic geysers erupted at irregular intervals, sending plumes of molten rock skyward. The air was a furnace. Their suits strained to keep internal temperatures survivable. Kim swallowed hard. "We need shelter. And a plan." "We have one," Jace said. "The automated mining station, 23 kilometers east. If its systems are still functional, it should have an escape pod." Kira nodded. "And a geothermal shield dome. If it's still powered, we can recharge suits and refill oxygen." Kim stared across the horizon. The mining station was invisible behind the haze and the jagged basalt ridges, but she knew the map. She had studied it for weeks. 23 kilometers. Across a world trying to kill them. "Then we move," Jace said. "Every minute counts." The first bridge. They walked single file, boots crunching on brittle volcanic glass. The ground radiated heat through their soles. Kim's visor crack glowed faintly, the edges softening. "Your visor's compromised," Kira said over comms. "If that crack spreads." "I know," Kim said. "I'll manage." "You won't if it ruptures. The air out here will cook your lungs." Jace cut in. "We'll find a way to patch it. Keep moving." The first basalt bridge rose ahead of them, a natural arch spanning a river of lava. It was wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side, but the middle sagged ominously, glowing faintly from below. Kira scanned it with her wrist module. "Structural integrity questionable. But it's our only route unless you want to swim." "Hard pass," Kim muttered. They stepped onto the bridge. It groaned under their weight. Halfway across, the tremors intensified. A geyser erupted downstream, sending a shockwave through the ground. The bridge cracked. "Run!" Jace shouted. They sprinted. The basalt crumbled behind them, chunks falling into the lava with explosive splashes. Heat surged upward, searing their suit exteriors. Kim's foot slipped on a loose shard. She pitched forward. Jace grabbed her arm, hauling her upright without breaking stride. They leapt off the bridge just as the entire structure collapsed behind them, dissolving into the molten river. Kim lay on the ground, panting. That was too close. "Welcome to Emberfall," Kira said grimly. The geyser field. The next stretch was worse. A field of volcanic geysers stretched across the plain, each one erupting unpredictably. Some spewed molten rock. Others belched superheated steam. The ground was cracked and unstable. Kira studied the pattern. They're pressure cycle geysers. If we time it right, we can weave through. "Define right," Kim said. "Within a 2-second window." Jace exhaled. "We'll take it." They moved quickly, darting between geysers as they erupted in towering plumes. Steam roared past Kim's helmet, fogging her visor. Her cracked display flickered. A geyser ahead erupted early. "Back!" Kira shouted. They jumped aside as molten rock sprayed across the path, droplets sizzling against their suits. Kim's oxygen timer ticked down relentlessly. 3 hours, 29 minutes. 3 hours, 28. 3 hours, 27. They were burning time as fast as oxygen. The basalt forest. The landscape shifted again. Towering basalt columns rose like a petrified forest, some as thin as tree trunks, others as wide as buildings. They leaned at odd angles, cracked by centuries of seismic stress. Lava seeped between them in glowing streams. "It's beautiful," Kim whispered despite herself. "It's unstable," Jace corrected. "Stay alert." They wove through the columns. The air was slightly cooler here, shielded from direct lava flows, but the ground trembled constantly. A deep rumble echoed through the forest. Kira froze. That's not normal seismic activity. The rumble grew louder. The basalt columns began to sway. "Run!" Jace shouted. The forest collapsed around them in a chain reaction. Columns toppled like dominoes, smashing into each other with thunderous cracks. Shards of obsidian rained down. Kim sprinted, lungs burning, suit alarms blaring. A column crashed behind her, showering her with debris. Another fell ahead, blocking the path. Jace vaulted over it. Kira slid under a falling slab. Kim dove through a narrow gap just as the entire section behind her collapsed into a pile of molten-edged rubble. Silence returned slowly. Kim lay on her back, staring up at the ash-choked sky. Her visor crack had widened. "Suit integrity at 71%, she whispered. Jace knelt beside her. "We'll fix it. We have to." The first failure. They found a small overhang of cooled basalt, barely enough shade to reduce thermal load. Kira opened one of the emergency packs. Thermal gel, water, 2 oxygen filters, and 1 patch kit. Jace frowned. "Only one. Only one." Kim sat up. "Use it on someone else." "I'll manage." Jace's tone sharpened. "Not happening." Kira held up the patch kit. "It's enough to seal a crack, not rebuild a visor. It'll hold for maybe an hour." "Better than nothing," Jace said. "Kim, hold still." She did. He applied the patch carefully, smoothing the adhesive over the crack. The material hardened instantly, forming a translucent seal. Her display stabilized. Suit integrity, 78%. Oxygen, 3 hours, 12 minutes. Jace exhaled. "Good. We keep moving." Kira hesitated. "We're burning oxygen faster than projected. The heat's forcing the suits to overcompensate." "How much faster?" Kim asked. 20%. Kim did the math. 23 kilometers. 3 hours of oxygen. And rising temperatures. "We're not going to make it," she whispered. Jace looked at her, eyes steady behind his visor. We will, because we don't have another option. The river of fire. The next obstacle was the worst yet. A massive lava river, wider than a city street, cut across their path. The heat was so intense their suit exteriors glowed faintly. The air shimmered violently. There should be a basalt bridge here, Kira said, checking her map. There was, Jace said. Past tense. The bridge had collapsed entirely, leaving only jagged stumps on either side. Kim stared at the molten expanse. We can't cross this. We can, Jace said. We just need a path. Kira scanned the river. There, floating crust. Solidified lava plates. They're thin, but they might hold long enough if we move fast. Kim swallowed. Might. Kira shrugged. Welcome to geology. They stepped onto the first plate. It wobbled. Heat surged through their boots. The second plate cracked under Jace's weight but held. The third began to sink the moment Kim stepped on it. Move! Jace shouted. She leapt to the next plate. The sinking one vanished beneath the lava. They hopped from plate to plate, each one threatening to give way. The heat was unbearable. Suit alarms screamed. Kim's oxygen timer dropped below 3 hours. Then below 2 hours, 59 minutes. Then below 2 hours, 58. They reached the far side just as the last plate disintegrated behind them. Kim collapsed to her knees. I can't keep doing this. Jace crouched beside her. You can. And you will. Kira checked her map. We're halfway. Kim stared at her oxygen timer. 2 hours, 47 minutes. Halfway. They were not going to make it. The ash storm. The sky darkened. At first Kim thought it was just another plume of volcanic smoke. But then the wind picked up. Hot, violent, swirling. Ash and Emberfall whipped around them in a blinding storm. Visibility dropping, Kira said. We need cover. There is no cover, Jace said. Stay close. The storm hit them full force. Ash pelted their suits like burning sand. Embers stuck to their armor, glowing red before flickering out. The wind howled, pushing them sideways. Kim's visor patch began to soften. Jace, my visor. I see it. Keep your head down. The storm intensified. The ground trembled. A distant explosion lit the sky orange. Kira shouted something, but the wind swallowed her words. Kim stumbled, nearly falling into a fissure opening beneath her feet. Jace grabbed her arm again, pulling her back. They pushed forward blindly, step by agonizing step. The storm lasted 20 minutes. Felt like hours. When it finally passed, the world was unrecognizable. Ash covered everything in a thick gray blanket. Lava flows glowed faintly beneath it like veins under skin. Kim checked her oxygen. 2 hours, 21 minutes. Kira's voice was quiet. We lost 30 minutes of progress. Jace clenched his jaw. Then we make it up. The basalt canyon. The ground sloped downward into a narrow canyon carved by ancient lava flows. The walls glowed faintly, heat radiating from deep within. It's a shortcut, Kira said. Cuts 5 kilometers off the route. What's the catch? Kim asked. Kira hesitated. Thermal spikes. Sudden ones. How sudden? Jace asked. Seconds. Jace nodded. We take it. They descended into the canyon. The heat was oppressive, pressing against them like a physical force. Their suit cooling systems strained, humming loudly. Halfway through, Kira's scanner beeped. Thermal spike incoming. Where? Jace demanded. Everywhere. The canyon walls glowed brighter. The ground shook. A blast of superheated air roared through the canyon like a dragon's breath. Down! Jace shouted. They dove behind a cluster of basalt pillars as the thermal wave swept over them. Their suit temperatures spiked dangerously. Kim's visor patch blistered. Her display flickered. Suit integrity, 63%. Oxygen, 2 hours, 9 minutes. When the wave passed, she was shaking. We can't keep doing this, she whispered. Jace looked at her, voice steady. We don't stop. Not until we reach that station. Kira pointed ahead. We're close. 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers. 2 hours of oxygen. It was possible. Barely. The creature. They emerged from the canyon onto a plateau of cracked basalt. The mining station's distant silhouette was finally visible. A dark dome against the glowing horizon. Kim exhaled in relief. Then the ground moved. At first she thought it was another tremor, but then a shape rose from the lava pool beside them. A massive serpentine creature of molten rock and obsidian plates. Its body glowed from within, cracks revealing flowing magma beneath. Its eyes were pits of white-hot light. Kira froze. That's impossible. Jace stepped in front of the others. Move back. Slowly. The creature hissed, a sound like steam escaping under pressure. Lava dripped from its jaws. Kim's heart pounded. What do we do? Jace's voice was calm. We don't run. It'll chase. We move sideways. Slowly. They edged along the basalt, keeping distance. The creature followed. Kira whispered, "It's territorial. We're too close to its heat source." "Then we give it space," Jace said. But the creature lunged. Jace shoved Kim aside as a molten claw slammed into the ground where she had stood. The impact sent a shockwave through the plateau. Kira grabbed a thermal gel canister from her pack. "Hey! Over here!" She threw it. The canister burst in a plume of cooling foam. The creature recoiled, shrieking as the gel hardened on its molten skin. "Run!" Jace shouted. They sprinted across the plateau as the creature thrashed behind them, molten chunks flying. Kim didn't look back. She didn't need to. The creature's roar echoed across the volcanic plain. The final stretch. They ran until their legs burned, until their suits overheated, until the mining station loomed ahead like salvation. Kim collapsed to her knees, gasping. Oxygen, 1 hour, 42 minutes. Kira fell beside her. We made it. The ground trembled. The station's dome flickered. Jace stared at it, jaw tightening. Powers unstable. Kim's heart sank. If the dome's down, the escape pod might be offline, Kira finished. Jace helped them to their feet. We're not dying out here. Move. They approached the station entrance. The door was half buried in ash. The control panel was dark. Jace pried it open manually, sparks flying. The door groaned. Then it opened. A wave of cooler air washed over them. Kim nearly cried. They stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind them, and the lights flickered on. Part 2. The station breathes. The door sealed behind them with a heavy metallic thud, muffling the roar of the volcanic world outside. For the first time since the crash, Kim felt something close to relief. The air inside the mining station was cooler, barely, but enough that her suit's thermal alarms finally stopped screaming. Lights flickered overhead, struggling to stay alive. The corridor stretched forward in a long, dim tunnel of metal ribs and ash-stained panels. Kira exhaled shakily. Environmental systems are still running. That's honestly a miracle. Jace scanned the walls. Powers unstable. We need to find the central control hub. Kim leaned against the wall, catching her breath. Her visor patch was softening again, the edges peeling slightly. Suit integrity, 59%. Oxygen, 1 hour, 39 minutes. We need oxygen refills, she said. Soon. We'll get them, Jace replied. But first we make sure this place isn't about to collapse on us. Kira nodded. Mining stations like this have geothermal stabilizers. If they're offline, the whole dome could fail. Kim pushed herself upright. Then let's move. The abandoned halls. The station interior was a maze of industrial corridors, storage bays, and maintenance shafts. Everything was coated in a thin layer of ash, as if the world outside had seeped in through every crack. They passed shattered equipment, overturned carts, and scorch marks on the walls. This place saw a fight, Jace murmured. Kira frowned. Against what? There's no fauna inside a sealed dome. Kim's stomach tightened. Unless something got in. They reached a junction. A sign overhead flickered. Central Control, Oxygen Reclamation. Mining Bay 1. Jace pointed. Oxygen first. They descended a narrow stairwell into a lower level. The air grew cooler still, but the lights dimmed to a faint red glow. The oxygen reclamation chamber was a large circular room filled with cylindrical tanks and filtration units. Most were dark. A few blinked weakly. Kira rushed to the nearest console. "If I can reroute power." A metallic clang echoed from the far side of the room. Kim froze. "Did you hear that?" Jace raised his plasma cutter. "Stay behind me." Another clang. Then a scraping sound. Something moved in the shadows. Kira whispered, "That's not geothermal expansion." Jace stepped forward, cutter raised. A shape emerged, small, skittering, metallic. A mining drone, or what used to be one. Its chassis was warped by heat. Its legs were fused into jagged, uneven angles. Its sensor array flickered erratically. It dragged itself across the floor, emitting a distorted whine. Kim exhaled. "It's damaged." Kira frowned. "No, it's corrupted. The heat must have fried its logic core." The drone suddenly lunged. Jace fired the cutter. A burst of plasma sliced through the drone's torso, sending it crashing to the floor in a shower of sparks. Silence returned. Kira swallowed. If the drones are malfunctioning, the whole station could be compromised. "Then we move fast," Jace said. "Get us oxygen." Kira worked quickly, fingers flying across the console. "I can bring 2 tanks online. Enough to refill our suits once." Kim's heart lifted. "Do it." The tanks hissed to life. Cool, clean oxygen flowed into their suits, resetting their timers. Oxygen, 4 hours, 0 minutes. Kim nearly sagged with relief. Jace nodded. "Good. Now we find the escape pod." The control hub. The central control hub was located at the heart of the station. A circular chamber lined with consoles, holographic displays, and a massive geothermal core monitor. The moment they entered, the main screen flickered on. Geothermal stabilizer, critical failure dome integrity, 42% escape pod status. Offline. Kira's face went pale. The stabilizer's failing. If it collapses, the dome will implode. Jace stepped forward. "Can we fix it?" "Maybe, but the stabilizer is in the lower geothermal chamber. And that's not a safe place." Kim looked at the escape pod readout. "Why is it offline?" Kira scanned the data. Power rerouted. The system prioritized stabilizer cooling over auxiliary systems. If we restore the stabilizer, the pod might come back online. Jace nodded. "Then that's our path. Fix the stabilizer, get the pod running, and get off this planet." Kim hesitated. "What about the creature outside?" "It followed us." Kira shivered. "If it's drawn to heat, the geothermal chamber will be like a beacon." Jace's voice hardened. "Then we move fast." Descent into the core. The path to the geothermal chamber was a vertical shaft with a maintenance ladder. Heat radiated upward like a furnace. Kim stared down into the glowing depths. "This is insane." Kira clipped her harness to the ladder. "Welcome to volcanology." They descended. The temperature rose with every meter. Their suit cooling systems strained, humming loudly. The metal rungs were hot enough to scorch through gloves if they lingered too long. Halfway down, the shaft shook. A deep rumble echoed from below. Jace paused. That wasn't seismic. Kim's blood ran cold. "It's here." A roar echoed up the shaft. The creature. It had found another way in. "Move!" Jace shouted. They climbed faster, boots clanging against the ladder. The roar grew louder. Heat surged upward. Kim's visor patch blistered again. Suit integrity, 52%. They reached the bottom just as a plume of molten air blasted up the shaft. Jace slammed the hatch shut. The roar faded, but not for long. The geothermal chamber. The chamber was enormous. a cavernous space filled with pipes, coolant conduits, and a massive central stabilizer tower glowing with internal heat. The floor was a grid of metal walkways suspended over a churning pool of molten rock. Kira rushed to the control panel. The coolant pumps are offline. If we can restart them. A tremor shook the chamber. Kim grabbed a railing. This place is falling apart. Jace scanned the walkways. We'll hold it together long enough. Kira pointed to a distant platform. The manual override is there. Someone needs to pull it while I reroute power. Jace nodded. I'll go. No, Kim said. Your suit's in better shape. If something happens, you're the one who can still make it back. Jace hesitated. Kira looked between them. We don't have time to argue. Kim stepped forward. I'll do it. Jace clenched his jaw. Fine, but I'm right behind you. The walkway. Kim crossed the metal walkway, each step echoing over the molten pool below. Heat radiated upward, warping the air. Her suit alarms blared. Suit integrity, 47%. The walkway trembled. A section ahead collapsed into the lava with a deafening crash. Kim froze. Jace shouted from behind her. Jump! She backed up, sprinted, and leapt across the gap. Her boots hit the far side hard, nearly slipping. She reached the manual override, a large lever fused with ash and heat damage. She grabbed it. It didn't budge. Come on, she whispered. She pulled harder. The lever snapped free with a metallic crack. The stabilizer tower roared to life, coolant surging through its conduits. Kira shouted from across the chamber. It's working. Power levels stabilizing. Kim exhaled in relief. Then the roar returned. Louder. Closer. The creature burst through the far wall in a shower of molten debris. The creature returns. It was larger now, its molten body pulsing with heat, obsidian plates cracked and glowing. It shrieked, the sound vibrating through the chamber. Jace raised his plasma cutter. Kim, move! The creature lunged onto the walkway, its weight bending the metal. Lava dripped from its jaws, sizzling on the floor. Kim ran. The walkway buckled behind her. Jace fired the cutter, slicing through one of the creature's limbs. It shrieked but kept coming. Kira shouted, the stabilizer's drawing it in. It's attracted to the heat. The creature leapt onto the central platform, claws digging into the metal. The stabilizer tower groaned under the impact. Kim reached Jace's side. We need to get out of here, Kira yelled. The escape pod should be online now. Go! The creature roared, molten saliva spraying across the walkway. Jace grabbed Kim's arm. Move! They sprinted toward the exit hatch. The creature lunged again, smashing into the walkway behind them. The metal collapsed, falling into the molten pool. Heat surged upward. Kim's visor patch melted completely. Her display flickered. Suit integrity, 39%. They reached the hatch. Jace slammed it shut just as the creature slammed into the other side. The metal dented inward, but held, for now. The race to the pod. They climbed the maintenance ladder as fast as their exhausted bodies allowed. The creature roared below, slamming against the hatch. The shaft trembled. Kira's voice crackled over comms. The stabilizer's holding, but not for long. The creature's destabilizing the chamber. Jace grunted. We're almost there. They reached the upper level and sprinted through the corridors toward the escape pod bay. Lights flickered. Alarms blared. The station groaned as if the entire structure were shifting. Kim's oxygen timer ticked down rapidly, her suit leaking from multiple microfractures. Oxygen. 3 hours, 29 minutes. 3 hours, 28. 3 hours, 27. They reached the pod bay. The door was open. The pod was intact. Kira was already inside, frantically powering up the systems. It's functional, she shouted. Get in. Jace pushed Kim inside, then followed. The pod door sealed. The engines hummed. The station shook violently. A roar echoed through the corridors. The creature was coming. Kira slammed her hand on the launch control. Launching. The pod shuddered. The clamps released. The engines ignited. The pod shot upward through the launch tube, just as the creature burst into the bay below, molten claws reaching for them. The pod rocketed into the ash-choked sky. The station exploded beneath them. Part 3. The Ascent. The escape pod punched through Emberfall's ash-choked atmosphere like a bullet through smoke. The hull rattled violently, heat shields glowing white as the engines strained against gravity and the planet's furious grasp. Kim clung to her harness, every muscle trembling. Her visor was nearly opaque now. The patch melted into a cloudy smear. She could barely see the others. Kira sat at the navigation console, fingers flying across the controls. We're breaking through the upper thermals. Hold on. Jace braced himself against the bulkhead. Status on the creature? Kira hesitated. It shouldn't be able to follow us. Not at this altitude. Kim didn't miss the uncertainty in her voice. The pod shook again, harder this time. A deep, resonant boom echoed through the hull. Jace's eyes narrowed. That wasn't turbulence. Kira checked the sensors. No. No. What? Kim asked. Kira swallowed. It's climbing the launch tube. Kim's blood ran cold. That's impossible. Everything about that thing is impossible, Jace said. Kira, get us into orbit. I'm trying. The pod burst through the last layer of ash cloud, emerging into the blackness of space. Emberfall glowed below them, a swirling mass of molten rivers and erupting plumes. For a moment there was silence. Then the pod lurched violently. A massive, molten shape erupted from the atmosphere behind them, wings of obsidian shards unfurling, body trailing a comet tail of fire. The creature had launched itself into the sky, and it was still coming. The chase in orbit. Kira's voice cracked. It's using thermal updrafts from the eruption. It's riding them like a slingshot. Jace strapped into the co-pilot seat. Then we outrun it. This pod isn't built for combat maneuvers. It is now. The creature closed the distance, molten claws scraping against the pod's rear plating. The hull screamed under the impact. Kim felt the entire pod shudder. We can't take another hit. Kira diverted power to the engines. I'm pushing everything we have into thrust. The pod surged forward, engines roaring. The creature roared back, a sound that vibrated through the vacuum like a physical force. Jace checked the trajectory. We're on course for the orbital debris field. If we can lose it in there, we risk getting shredded, Kira finished. Better shredded than eaten, Kim muttered. Kira gritted her teeth. Entering debris field in 10 seconds. The creature lunged again, claws raking across the hull. Warning lights flared. Hull integrity. 62% engine temperature. Critical. Kim's heart pounded. It's going to tear us apart. Jace's voice was steady. Not if we use the field. The debris field. The pod plunged into the orbital wreckage. Shattered satellites, mining drones, broken solar arrays drifting like a graveyard of metal bones. Kira weaved through the debris with desperate precision. Hold on. A massive satellite fragment spun past, missing them by meters. The creature followed, smashing through debris, molten body melting metal on contact. Jace pointed. There, those fuel canisters. If we can lure it close. Kira understood instantly. Kim. Manual release on the starboard panel. Kim unbuckled, stumbling toward the emergency controls as the pod shook violently. Her suit alarms blared. Suit integrity, 31%. She reached the panel, grabbed the lever and pulled. A cluster of old fuel canisters detached from the pod's hull, drifting behind them. The creature lunged. Kira fired the pod's microthrusters, spinning them sharply. The creature slammed into the canisters. A blinding explosion lit the void. Shrapnel scattered in all directions. The pod tumbled violently. Kim slammed into the wall, her visor cracking further. Jace grabbed her arm, steadying her. You good. Define good, she muttered. Kira checked the sensors. Did we kill it? The smoke cleared. A molten silhouette emerged, damaged, but alive. And furious. It's still coming, Kira whispered. The last gambit. Jace stared at the creature on the display. We can't outrun it. We can't outmaneuver it. So we use what it wants. Kim frowned. Heat. Exactly. Emberfall's orbital furnace. Kira's eyes widened. The mining station's old solar crucible. It's still in orbit. Kim remembered the schematics. An enormous ring of mirrors designed to focus solar energy for smelting or... It's inactive, she said. Not entirely, Kira replied. The mirrors still track sunlight. If we fly through the focal point, the creature will follow, Jace finished. And the concentrated heat will vaporize it. Kim swallowed. And us? Kira hesitated. If we time it perfectly, maybe not. Jace nodded. Plot the course. Kira's fingers flew across the console. Course set. This is going to be tight. The creature closed in, molten wings beating against the vacuum. Kira pushed the engines to maximum. The pod shot toward the crucible. A massive ring of shattered mirrors and drifting metal. The focal point glowed faintly, a sphere of concentrated solar energy. Approaching focal point, Kira said. 10 seconds. The creature lunged. 5 seconds. The pod's hull began to glow. 3 seconds. The creature opened its molten jaws. 2. Jace shouted. Now! Kira fired the emergency thrusters. The pod jerked sideways. The creature flew straight into the focal point. A blinding flash erupted. The creature shrieked. A sound that tore through the vacuum, through the pod, through their bones. Its molten body disintegrated in a burst of white-hot plasma. Silence followed. Then darkness. The pod's systems flickered. The engines died. They drifted. The aftermath. Kim floated in her harness, chest heaving. Are we alive? Kira checked the diagnostics. Barely. Engines offline. Power reserves at 6%. Jace looked out the viewport. Emberfall glowed below them. The creature gone. The sky calm. We did it, he said quietly. Kim exhaled, relief washing over her. Now what? Kira pointed to a blinking signal on the console. The pod automatically transmitted a distress beacon when the engines failed. Nearest ship is the Horizon's Wake. 2 hours out. Kim sagged in her seat. 2 hours. I can do 2 hours. Jace leaned back, exhaustion finally catching up to him. We made it off Emberfall. That's what matters. Kira smiled weakly. Teamwork. Kim nodded. And stubbornness. Jace smirked. Mostly stubbornness. They drifted in silence for a moment, watching the volcanic world shrink beneath them. Emberfall still burned, but they were no longer burning with it. Epilogue. The price of survival. 2 hours later, the Horizon's Wake arrived. A massive survey vessel with gleaming hull plates and a crew ready to pull them aboard. As medics helped them out of the pod, Kim looked back one last time at Emberfall. A world of fire. A world that had tried to kill them at every step. A world they had crossed together. Jace stepped beside her. You thinking of going back? Kim snorted. Not even in my nightmares. Kira laughed softly. Good. Because I'm never setting foot on a volcanic planet again. Jace raised an eyebrow. You say that now. Kira elbowed him. I mean it. Kim smiled. They had survived Emberfall. And survival on a world like that was victory enough. This is the end of the sci-fi story, Emberfall. Leave a like if you enjoyed the story, and subscribe for more sci-fi stories. Thanks for listening.